In the heart of 18th-century France, amidst the whispers of discontent and the clamor for change, a man named Maximilien Robespierre emerged as one of the most influential figures of the French Revolution. Born on May 6, 1758, in Arras, a provincial town in the northern part of France, Robespierre's life would be marked by both idealism and the brutal realities of political upheaval. This is the story of a man who rose from obscurity to become a symbol of the revolution, only to meet a tragic and ignominious end. Maximilien came from a modest background. His father, François Robespierre, was a lawyer, and his mother, Jacqueline Marguerite Carrault, was a seamstress. The Robespierre family lived a frugal life, but young Maximilien's sharp intellect and dedication to his studies soon set him apart. He attended the local college, where he excelled in his studies and gained a reputation as a diligent student. As a young man, Robespierre moved to Paris to study law at the prestigious University of Paris. It was in the bustling capital city that he became deeply involved in the intellectual and political circles of the time. He was influenced by Enlightenment thinkers like Rousseau and Voltaire, whose ideas of liberty, equality, and fraternity would become the guiding principles of his life. In 1781, Robespierre returned to Arras and began practicing law as a lawyer. He soon gained a reputation as a skilled and passionate defender of the downtrodden, earning him the nickname the Incorruptible for his unwavering commitment to justice. It was during this time that Robespierre first became politically active, advocating for political and social reform in France. The year 1789 marked a turning point in French history. The Estates General was convened, leading to the outbreak of the French Revolution. Robespierre, with his deep-seated convictions and eloquent speeches, quickly rose to prominence as a voice for the common people. He was elected as a deputy to the Estates General and later to the National Convention, where he became a leading member of the radical Jacobin Club. Robespierre's vision for France was one of radical change. He believed in the abolition of the monarchy and the establishment of a republic that would be governed by the principles of liberty, equality, and fraternity. As the revolution progressed, Robespierre's influence grew, and he became a driving force behind many of its most significant events. In 1793, the revolution took a dark turn with the execution of King Louis XVI. Robespierre, who had advocated for the king's trial and execution, found himself at the center of the political storm. He argued passionately for the necessity of the king's death, seeing it as a symbol of the revolution's commitment to the principles of equality and justice. Robespierre's role in the Reign of Terror, a period of extreme political violence and repression, is one of the most controversial aspects of his legacy. He believed that the revolution was still under threat from counter-revolutionaries and sought to eliminate anyone he viewed as an enemy of the Republic. The Committee of Public Safety, which he was a part of, oversaw the arrests and executions of thousands of perceived enemies of the revolution. During this time, Robespierre's power and influence reached their zenith. He was regarded as the de facto leader of France, and his words carried immense weight in the National Convention. However, his unwavering commitment to the Reign of Terror began to sow the seeds of his downfall. As the terror continued, many began to view Robespierre as a tyrant himself, using the guillotine to silence dissent and consolidate his power. Even some of his fellow Jacobins grew wary of his radicalism. Robespierre's increasing paranoia and distrust of his colleagues led to a fracture within the Jacobin Club, and his grip on power began to slip. The beginning of the end for Robespierre came in July 1794, with the Thermidorian reaction. A group of conspirators within the National Convention, fearing for their own lives, plotted to remove Robespierre from power. On the 9th of Thermidor, Robespierre delivered a fateful speech in which he accused members of the convention of being enemies of the revolution. This proved to be a step too far, as many deputies turned against him. The following day, Robespierre and his allies were arrested, marking the start of a dramatic and chaotic series of events. Robespierre and his supporters were imprisoned in the Luxembourg Palace, but they still had allies in the streets of Paris. A mob of Robespierre's supporters attempted to free him, but the uprising was quickly crushed by government forces. Robespierre and his allies were put on trial before the Revolutionary Tribunal, a court that had condemned so many to the guillotine. The trial was a spectacle, with accusations and counter-accusations flying. In the end, Robespierre and his associates were found guilty and sentenced to death. On the 28th of Thermidor, 1794, Maximilien Robespierre, along with his brother Augustin, Louis-Antoine de Saint-Just, and Georges Couthon, was executed by the guillotine. The very instrument of justice he had advocated for had turned against him. Robespierre's death marked the end of the Reign of Terror and a turning point in the French Revolution. The fall of Robespierre brought about a period of political instability known as the Thermidorian reaction. The radical phase of the revolution began to give way to a more moderate and conservative era. The Jacobin Club was disbanded, and many of Robespierre's associates were purged from the government. In the years that followed, France underwent a series of political changes, including the rise of the Directory and, ultimately, the rise of Napoleon Bonaparte. The ideals of the revolution, including liberty, equality, and fraternity, were not forgotten, but they were often overshadowed by the pursuit of power and stability. Maximilien Robespierre's legacy is a complex and divisive one. To some, he is a symbol of the revolution's noble ideals, a man who fought tirelessly for the principles of liberty and equality. To others, he is a symbol of the revolution's darkest and bloodiest moments, a man who let his idealism spiral into extremism and violence. Robespierre's life and career serve as a cautionary tale about the dangers of uncompromising idealism and the perils of wielding power without restraint. His story reminds us that even the most fervent believers in a cause can be led astray by their own convictions. In the end, Maximilien Robespierre remains a figure of historical fascination and debate, a man whose life and actions continue to be studied and dissected by scholars and historians.